All right. We have 1 little hour at our disposal, and we want to make the most out of it. So I suggest that we get started. I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone, to those joining anew, but also to those who stayed on from the previous session. We started in the morning talking about the rule of law from a citizens and civil society perspective, and we want to continue that conversation now by looking at a concrete case of good practice, which is Albania, and by inviting an official viewpoint on the subject of the rule of law. The rule of law has long been the decisive benchmark in the EU accession process, the test that determines not only how much progress a country makes, but how credible that progress is. For many years, Albania was viewed as one of the countries facing the toughest challenges in this field. Weak institutions, entrenched corruption, and limited public trust in justice. Yet, that picture is changing. The European Commission's 2025 country report for Albania acknowledges, I quote, very good progress, quotation marks closed, in strengthening the fight against corruption and organized crime, and it highlights SPAK, which stands for the Special Structure for the Fight Against Corruption and Organized Crime, as a key driver of that progress. The report commends SPAK's growing track record in prosecuting high-level cases and its strong cooperation with EU partners such as Europol, Eurojust, and EPPO. At the same time, it underlines the challenges that lie ahead: safeguarding independence, ensuring adequate capacity, and managing the pressures that come with rising expectations. These are not just institutional questions, they go to the heart of Albania's democratic consolidation and the credibility also of the enlargement process as a whole. So, to discuss all these very important aspects, I have the immense pleasure of introducing today's distinguished speakers. Mr. Altin Dumani, Chief of Special Prosecution Office Against Corruption and Organized Crime for Albania, and Giulio Venneri, Deputy Head of Unit Enlargement Strategy and Coordination at DG ENEST. Thank you all so very much for accepting the invitation and being with us here today. As always, we will first hear from our panelists, and then I will open the floor for questions and comments from all of you in the audience. And I want to begin, of course, with Mr. Dumani. Albania's justice system has often been described as, not justice system, but justice reform, has been described as one of the most ambitious in the Western Balkans, and SPAK as its flagship institution. Looking back now, what do you see as the key lesson from this reform journey for building institutions that are both independent and effective, and for maintaining citizens' trust in the rule of law? Mr. Dumani, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It is a privilege to speak at the European Policy Center on a topic that goes to the very heart of democratic resilience, lessons from Albanian justice reforms and the evolution of SPAK as its flagship institution.
Maybe I can give you this mic. I'm
okay,
not sure that the other one works. I'm sorry.
When Albania embarked on its justice reform in 2016, many believed it was too ambitious, too disruptive, perhaps even unrealistic. But Albania had reached a point where the previous system, which was captured, compromised, and drained of public confidence, could no longer serve the citizens. The reform was not simply a legal exercise. It was a national decision to reset the moral foundation of the state. In those early days, the most dramatic step was the vetting of judges and prosecutors. It was an unprecedented process in Europe. I can say around 50% of all magistrates were dismissed. For a small country, this was a shockwave. but it was also a moment of clarity, because from the very beginning, independence was not treated as an abstract principle. It was engineering into the system through constitutional amendments and over 40 new or revised law that created an entirely new architecture of justice system. SPAK was born from that architecture, a new institution built not on inherited practices, but on a vision, an independent, specialized body that could confront high-level corruption and organized crime. 9 years later, looking back at this journey, several lessons have become clear. First, independence does not happen by accident. It requires courage to design, discipline to protect, and professionalism to sustain. SPAK's independence is not symbolic. It is the key enabling condition that allowed prosecutors and investigators to work without fear or interference. Second, independence must be paired with capability. Our reform would mean little if SPAK were independent but ineffective. Building investigative capacity in financial crime, cyber analysis, encrypted communications, and cryptocurrency tracing was essential also. We had to develop the tools to confront networks that operate across continents, move assets digitally, and adapt faster than traditional institutions. And third, trust is power. In a country where trust in institution was historically fragile, SPAK's success has changed perceptions. For the past 3 years, SPAK has been the most trustful institution in Albania, with support levels around 70%. This trust reinforces our legitimacy, empowers victims and whistleblowers, and strengthens society belief that the rule of law can prevail. But perhaps the most defining feature of SPAK's evolution is something else: the understanding that organized crime does not respect borders, and therefore neither can justice. From the outset, it was clear to us that Albanian-speaking organized crime was not a national challenge. It was a European one. These networks operate in all of Europe, in Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, Nordic countries, Switzerland, and increasingly across Latin American countries, also in the United States. Cooperating with our foreign counterparts was therefore indispensable, but effective cooperation requires trust, and trust must be earned through concrete results. Today, we can confidentially say that SPAK has gained the trust of the international community, and this has been one of our most important achievements. This new reality did not simply support our mission. It fundamentally shaped our strategy. Building on this trust, SPAK has developed one of the most dynamic and results-driven models of international cooperation in the Western Balkans. Last year, we created 10 new JIT investigation teams with Italy, UK, Spain, Ecuador, Kosovo, and Germany, while in the same time, 27 other JITs continued their work. Today, our prosecutors exchange intelligence on a regular basis with Europol, Eurojust, EPPO, FBI, DEA, NCA, Italian anti-mafia, and other agencies in Europe, and also in Balkan region. Together, we coordinate RS, share digital forensic, launch parallel financial investigation, and synchronize complex operations that unfold across multiple time zones. This intense collaboration has reshaped Albania's position in the regional security landscape. SPAK is no longer simply an institution that receives information from abroad. Step by step, it has become a source of valuable intelligence, a generator of operational leads used by European and transatlantic partners. Where once Albania was seen as a vulnerable point in the chain, today it stands as a contributor to European security, not its weak link. And the results are tangible. 76 high-level officials investigated and around half of convicted by final decision, and the half still are under investigation or before the courts. Major criminal organization and dozens of transatlantic groups dismantled thanks to joint operation with our partners. Around 300 million euros in criminal assets seized or confiscated in 5 years. Each of these numbers tells a story of institutional resilience, but also of regional interdependence. None of one have been possible without the trust of Albanian citizens, the commitment of our prosecutors and investigators, and the steadfast support of the European and international community. The Albanian justice reform was not perfect, and it is not finished, but it shows something important, that systemic transformation is possible when a society chooses integrity over cynicism, and when institutions are built not for political comfort, but for public service. As we move forward, SPAK's mission remains the same: to work independently, to deliver results, and to justify the trust of the people we serve, while standing shoulder to shoulder with our European partners against a threat that belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Maybe I'll take it. Thank you so much for this very inspiring opening remarks. One thing that I want to ask you as a quick follow-up is, how do you explain the success of Albania's rule of law reform process? How do you explain the success of SPAK? Is it strike of luck? What is the secret for being able to bring about this systemic transformation that you mentioned?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I apologize. My English is not so good. I will continue in Albanian language, and the interpreter will help. Yeah, I understand totally your. Për të qenë të suksesshëm në luftën kundër korrupsionit dhe krimit të organizuar, gjëja e parë që duhet të ketë duhet ketë institucione të specializuara, të cilët janë të dedikuar pikërisht në këtë fushë kundër korrupsionit dhe krimit të organizuar. Tjetër, për të patur, dhe kjo me ndryshimet e vitit 2017 u bë mundur në Shqipëri, dhe si produkt i reformës në drejtësi ishte edhe SPAK. Më e rëndësishmja për të patur një institucion të suksesshëm të ndjekjes penale është pavarësia e institucionit. Kur themi pavarësia, kemi parasysh pavarësinë e brendshme, pra që prokurorët janë të pavarur në ushtrimin e ndjekjes penale nga drejtuesi i prokurorisë apo dhe nga pikpamja hierarkike, ata janë zotë të çështjes, dhe pavarësia e jashtme, që do thotë pavarësia nga pushtetet e tjera. Korniza kushtetuese dhe ligjore në Shqipëri garanton pavarësinë e SPAK. Tjetër element që duhet të theksoja është profesionalizmi dhe integriteti i prokurorëve dhe hetuesve të SPAK. Procesi i përzgjedhjes së prokurorëve dhe hetuesve të Byrosë Kombëtare të Hetimit është një proces i vështirë, ku kalohet nëpër shumë filtra dhe me qëllim pasjen në ekip të prokurorëve dhe të hetuesve të cilët janë jo vetëm profesionalisht të mirë, por edhe me integritet.
Well, in answer to your question about the factors that contribute to the success of SPAK, I have to say that in order for the fight against corruption and organized crime to be successful, first and foremost, there is a need for specialized institutions. So the specialized institutions in Albania were introduced in particular after the amendments and the changes of 2017 that came as a result of the justice reform, and one of those institutions was SPAK as well. Another very important element for the success of the SPAK institution itself is no. So one of the major issues or one of the major elements for the institution to be successful is having specialized institutions. And SPAK was one of the institutions that was deriving from the amendments and from the justice reform in Albania, starting from 2017. Another major importance to ensure the success of SPAK is also independence, be it both the internal independence and the external independence. What I mean by internal independence is the independence of prosecutors to independently prosecute cases. And as you know, every prosecutor is independent in what they do about the different files that they take care of. And when it comes to external independence, that's important as well. And that is something that is established by the legal documents of the country, starting with the constitution, but also with the laws that guarantee the independence of SPAK. Another major element helping the success of SPAK itself is professionalism of the investigators and prosecutors that are part and parcel of its composition. As you know, the choosing or the vetting process for prosecutors and investigators is very rough. It is a very delicate filter. And I think that by their professionalism and integrity as well, they help into having a sound and successful institution.
Tjetër element I rëndësishëm është patjetër ndërtimi I kapaciteteve teknike. Dhe SPAK, mendimin edhe të Bashkimit Evropian, por edhe të Shtetet Bashkuara, ka investuar shumë në këtë drejtim, duke bërë të mundur përdorimin e teknikave dhe mjeteve speciale të hetimit. Krahas atyre tradicionale, por kemi investuar edhe sa I takon në financë, por edhe nga pikpamja e burimeve njerëzore, me qëllim që të krijojmë kapacitetet e duhura për të bërë për të kryer hetime të suksesshme. Diçka tjetër që dua ta theksoj dhe vërtet ka qenë shumë e rëndësishme në suksesin e SPAK është bashkëpunimi ndërkombëtar. Unë përmenda pak në fjalën time, por realisht SPAK ka arritur të ndërtojë një koalicion të gjerë në luftën kundër krimit të organizuar. Përmenda Europol, përmenda Eurojust, por mund përmend për shembull Corina antimafia të Italisë, me cilin kemi një bashkëpunim shumë të suksesshëm. Mund përmend autoritetet belge, me cilët sërish kemi bashkëpunim shumë të mirë, autoritetet holandeze, spanjolle, gjermane, vendet nordike, me të cilët ne kemi gjithë të vende që përmenda, kemi bashkëpunojmë në formën e skuadrave përbashkëta hetimore, në formën e hetimeve paralele, në formën e shkëmbimit të informacionit spontan apo kërkesave për ndihmë juridike. Për shembull, në zyrat e SPAK në një ditë mund të kesh, në një ditë të vetme, nuk e di sa delegacione të huaja, sa autoritete të huaja vinë në zyrat e SPAK jo për trajnim, po vinë vetëm për të për të kryer veprime hetimore në funksion të hetimeve të tyre. Ne tashmë kemi arritur me vendet e Bashkimit me Europol, por edhe me disa shtete të Bashkimit Evropian të punojmë pothuajse në një grup të vetëm, sikur të jemi një institucion. Nuk mund të lë pa harruar bashkëpunimin me Shtetet e Bashkuara të Amerikës, sidomos me DEA-n edhe me FBI-n, me cilin sërish kemi hetime të përbashkëta, por ka një vit e gjysmë kemi vendosur marrëdhënie dhe bashkëpunim të mirë me disa shtete të Amerikës Latine, pasi krimi organizuar shqiptar nga hetimet tona rezulton që është prezent atje në vendet e Amerikës Latine, është direkt në kontakt me organizatat kriminale vendsa atje ku siguron dhe sasi të mëdha kokaine dhe me disa shtete, do veçoj Ekuadorin, por edhe Brazilin dhe Kolumbin, me të cilën ne kemi vendosur një marrëdhënie të mirë bashkëpunimi. Pra këto do të të gjithë këto bashkë mendoj unë kanë bërë të mundur që SPAK të jetë e suksesshëm në luftën kundër korrupsionit dhe krimit të organizuar.
Well, in addition to what I said before, I would like to also highlight the importance of the technical capacity building. As you might be aware of, we have benefited a lot from the funds from the European Union and from the United States as well that have tremendously helped us to build our capacities from the technical point of view. We also make sure that we use the latest special investigative tools. So in addition to the traditional tools, so we use all the different special investigative tools and the financial means as well as the human resources to make sure that every element in the chain contributes to the success of SPAK. Something else that I wish to also reiterate in answer to your question is international cooperation. Although international cooperation is one of the items that I also covered in my brief address to you. So we have a wide coalition of international cooperation. We have very good colleagues in different international institutions, such as Europol, Eurojust, but we also cooperate on a bilateral basis. So for instance, we do cooperate with the Anti-Mafia Prosecution Office of Italy. We have very good cooperation with the colleagues from Belgium, from Spain, Germany, the Nordic countries. And the cooperation itself is in different forms. So, for instance, we have joint investigative teams that we have established with many of these countries, but we also take part in parallel investigations. We answer different requests for assistance or letters regulatory that are addressed to us by different institutions elsewhere in the world. We also have a good cooperation with the United States of America, with the EA, with the FBI. And I think that a testament to the fact that we are a successful institution is also the fact that you can see visits of our counterparts from all over the world coming in our institution on a daily basis. So they are not just there for random visits, but they are there to take investigative actions that serve their cases. Also, I wish to say that over the last year, 1.5 years, we also have established very good cooperation with Latin American countries because we see that criminal gangs from Albania are very present in many of those countries, and we see that they are active and closely cooperation with their counterparts in these countries, being involved mainly in cocaine. In particular, we're cooperating with Ecuador, with Brazil, with Colombia, and I think that each and every of these elements contribute to us having a successful work and a success story at the end of the day.
But I can imagine that the journey of getting the institution up and to implement its mandate effectively has not always been easy. And just for the sake of learning lessons for the others who might be looking towards Albania as inspiration or for advice, what was a challenge or some challenges that you faced in the process of becoming operational and getting results in line with your integrity and motivation and making the best of the funds and the technical capacity and everything you've mentioned. So what are some challenges that you faced? How did you overcome them?
Vështirësitë kanë qenë të shumta. Kujtoj këtu që SPAK është një institucion i ri. Ne në dhjetor mbushim 6 vjeç, domethënë, dhe 6 vite për një institucion janë pak. Dhe vështirësitë vështirësitë kryesore kishin të bënin me organizimin e institucionit, me bërjen funksional të institucionit. Ne kemi filluar në vitin 2019, dhjetor 2019, kemi filluar punë vetëm 8 prokuror, në mungesë të Byros Kombëtare të Hetimit, në mungesë të stafit administrativ. Pastaj ishte edhe periudha e Covidit në mes dhe ishin vështirësi të karakterit teknik, të karakterit organizativ dhe të karakterit operacional. Vështirësi tjetër që ishte presioni në cilin e gjendeshim, presioni i publikut i cili kërkonte rezultate, pasi SPAK shihej atje si shihej në kohën kur u krijua si një shpresë për funksionimin e institucioneve, si një shpresë për dhënje fund të pandëshkueshmërisë. Ndërsa pritshmëritë ishin të mëdha, realisht mundësitë tona ishin të kufizuara. Tjetër vështirësi është menaxhimi i presioneve dhe i kërcënimeve të ndryshme që vinin në drejtim të prokurorisë, por edhe të prokurorëve të posaçëm, nga politika, nga media, por sidomos nga krimi organizuar. Megjithatë, prokurorët e SPAK janë me përvojë dhe janë të përgatitur për të përballuar këto presione, pavarësisht nga vinata. Secili prej prokurorëve ka një përvojë të admirueshme, gjithashtu janë dhe maturuar dhe i përballojnë këto presione. Dhe tjetër ishte një vështirësi dhe një sfidë ishte krijimi i besimit tek partnerët. Deri në vitet 2020-2021 institucionet shqiptare shiheshin me mosbesim. Dhe dërtimi i besimit me agjencitë partnere tonat ishte shumë i vështirë, është një proces shumë i vështirë. Po ju sjell një shembull, në zyrat e SPAK në vitin 2021, unë atë kohë nuk isha drejtuesi i prokurorisë posaçme, por isha shefi seksionit kundër krimit të organizuar. Prita një delegacion nga një vend antar i Bashkimit Evropian, por që ka qenë shumë skeptik sa i takon bashkëpunimit me institucionet shqiptare, përfshirë këtu dhe SPAK. Edhe ai kishte ardhur për të ekzekutuar një letërporosi, të rëndësishme kolegu im nga ky vend antar i Bashkimit Evropian, për të ekzekutuar një letërporosi. Dhe në bisedë duke qartë që ishte mosbesues dhe nuk ishte i hapur, nuk ishte i vërtet në masën 100% ato që kërkonte dhe donte të ndërtonte në të ardhmen. Dhe shprehimi ishte, i kam thënë, ju të paktën një herë duhet të na jepni besim të plot, të paktën një herë. Na vini në provë dhe nëse nuk e justifikojmë këtë besim, atëherë pastaj keni gjithë të drejtën që të mos bashkëpunoni me ne. Dhe ky ka qenë faktikisht një proces shumë i vështirë, sepse mosbesimi ishte i madh, por duke bashkëpunuar ditë për ditë, besoj e kemi kaluar dhe këtë pengesë dhe sot, ashtu siç e deklaruar më parë, kemi një bashkëpunim shumë të mirë me gjithë institucionet e vendit Bashkimit Evropian, por dhe me gjërë.
Well, when we talk about challenges, challenges are manifold. You have to take into consideration that SPAK itself is a new institution. SPAK will celebrate its 6th anniversary. It will be 6 years old this December. Therefore, it's a recent institution that is accompanied with all the different challenges that are related to establishing a new institution. First, after the legal amendments, the first thing that was needed to be done was to organize SPAK and also to make it operational. So in October of 2019, only 8 prosecutors were named in SPAK, whereas the National Investigative Bureau or the administrative staff was not appointed yet. Therefore, you can imagine yourself the difficulties that the prosecutors encountered, lacking additional capacities and lacking a clear guideline. Not only that, but then there was the COVID situation, which made the situation even more troublesome for us in terms of having a full operational institution. And another challenge that we were faced with from the beginning of our work with SPAK was the pressure for results. So there was a high expectation by the public for us to yield results. So we were considered as being the institution of giving hope for making people accountable and for giving end to impunity. So the expectations were high, whereas the resources and the organization of SPAK itself was not yet there. Therefore, that's the public's the public expectation. So the expectation that the people had on SPAK. A third challenge that I would list today is the pressure that we felt from different stakeholders. So we felt pressure from politics, from media, but in particular, we felt pressure from organized crimes. So it's pressure coming in different sorts of forms and shapes. However, our prosecutors are experienced prosecutors, they are dedicated people, they are trained, they are mature, and they have successfully overcome the fear coming from pressure and all the other consequences, again, related to pressure. On a different note, I wish to highlight the lack of trust from international institutions at the very beginning. So it was not an easy journey for us. And at the beginning of 2020, 2021, I can say that international institutions and other partners had a lack of trust in our institution. So I can bring an example of the time. So back in 2021, I was the head of the sector for organized crime, or the fight against organized crime. And I received a visit of a delegation, a colleague of mine, coming from one of the EU institutions. He was in Albania in order to execute one of the derogatory letters related to one of the cases that they have opened in their country. However, I could easily read that he was not comfortable, he was not being genuine, and he lacked full trust in us. And I made this open plea to him. I said, for once, you have to trust us. Just give us the benefit of the doubt. So try us, and then, just see on how things will go in the future. So this is just an illustration to say that we had a lot of hurdles and a lot of difficulties when it comes to brewing trust amongst the different institutions. However, it's my pleasure to say today that that challenge has already been surpassed because, like I said, we have very good cooperation with many institutions and many partners, not only in Europe, but all over the world.
So much. In the interest of time, I will come to Mr. Venneri and we can continue to find out about your interesting work during the Q&A. Mr. Venneri, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Commission's report this year on Albania has been rather positive, especially when it comes to the rule of law. At present in Brussels, Albania, together with Montenegro, are being described as front-running countries in the enlargement process. And from your perspective, how important is and was SPAK for getting Albania in this leadership position in the accession queue, let's say, and also what lessons do you think are important to derive for other EU aspiring countries in the region?
Thank you very much, Corina. Is this on? Yes. Thank you once again for having me here, and it's a pleasure to represent DG ENEST. I'll be very frank. And actually, I also have a little bit of historical memory on this because I was working on Albania when justice reform was put together. So I would say that to give first a effective and short answer to your question, that the establishment of SPAK and its ability to consolidate its functions, because of course it was not something that happened overnight. also, as he mentioned, Mr. Dumani was very clear, starting with building trust with partners in terms of operational cooperation, it took the time that it took. But SPAK, its establishment, its performances, its contribution to the track record in fighting organized crime and corruption and money laundering. In addition to the overall achievements of justice reform, I cannot detach the two. I think justice reform 2016 was pretty extraordinary in the sense that it triggered, as Mr. Dumani said himself, unprecedented change that somehow was also a bit of a shock wave for the system. And it's clear. I remember the words of the Venice Commission on the vetting, saying, well, vetting should be extrema ratio, really last resort. But in the case of Albania, because of corruption, because of endemic weaknesses in the rule of the law and in the independence, accountability of institutions, it might be a necessary avenue. So this was what the Venice Commission said. So you had changes at the institutional level on the operational side, but you also had at the same time, because justice reform was very comprehensive, Mr. Dumani mentioned 40, either new laws or amendments to laws, including criminal code, criminal procedure code, etc., to change radically the system. And also checks and balances were changed in favor of more marked independence. Two councils, two authorities for the self-governance of the judiciaries were established from the previous single council. So now we have two councils, and the changes to these two councils were pretty emblematic because the umbilical cord with the executives were cut. Accountability line states were possibly even reinforced, but also independence was clearly reinforced. These institutions were truly empowered to serve as self-governing bodies for the judiciary. So these two things together, operational changes and SPAK establishment, and all the changes that were introduced to justice reform more broadly, strengthening independence, have ensured that the EU could deliver. And this brings me to the answer of your second question, what is the lessons learned? I think the lessons learned for other countries should be that if there is genuine willingness to introduce reforms which, of course, are relevant for EU accession, but these are reforms that should ensure justice being delivered for citizens of these countries first, as Mr. Dumani mentioned. So European integration, of course, is there, it's a pulling factor. It conditions, hopefully, in a good way, the reform track of countries, but also we expect that there is a genuine willingness of governments and political establishment to put forward reforms that are meaningful for their citizens first. And that's what Albania did in 2016. And by the way, I have to recall that the vote to change the constitution, to trigger the vetting, to launch justice reform, was even historically unanimous. In one of the most polarized political systems in Europe and beyond, there was unanimous consent. This was historic. And the lessons learned, as I said, is that when the countries deliver with results, the EU delivered. I have a little anecdote that perhaps can be interesting and inspiring. Back then, we had the dialogue, high-level dialogue with Albania. We called it high-level dialogue on the accession process. Long story short, we were working against the backdrop of 14 priorities, agreed with member states in the council to push forward reforms so that Albania would get the candidate status. We were not talking about getting to negotiating, candidate status. And we had a strong focus on rule of law. And at the same time, just a few years before, when Albania lodged its membership application, this was 2012, the Commission wrote its opinion on Albania and Montenegro. For the first time, we spoke about track record. We started already to see the importance of looking at performances and output, and consolidation of functions of old, pre-existing or new institutions. And this has been crucial. I remember Albanian government back then, we had some interesting meetings, even at very high level, saying, do you realize that the EU is asking to do things that negotiating countries are not yet doing? And our answer was, I'm sorry, tough luck. We have a new approach. We have committed to our member states, to the member of the European Union, to front load the work on rule of law with the countries, regardless of where they are in the accession pipeline. We also passed on another message. If you deliver on an ambitious reform, you will make a leap once you open accession negotiation. In 1 year, Albania opened all the clusters. If this leap was made, if this accelerated pace of accession was possible, it's because of the rule of law reforms that were done starting with the 2016 and also with a lot of political courage. Most importantly, it's because this reform brought results. 10 years ago, Albania was a country with still a very high number of non-motivated criminal rulings. This is page statistics, is not commission. There were things that were very peculiar, which revealed the corruptive nature of dynamics across the judiciary. Today, after vetting process, today after justice reform, we are looking at Albania and praising the country also for being somehow a model of reforms. So I think this answers your question, and I hope it's clear that the whole justice reform package was historic and ensured Albania not only to get where Albania wanted to be with strong vision for EU enlargement, but also then to make, as it happened in the last 12 months, it was only October 24, we were opening the fundamental cluster, and now on Monday, the sixth cluster, which was cluster 5, was finally open. So Albania is negotiating on all chapters of the key.
But I mean, it's similar to what I asked Mr. Dumani. How do we explain it, though? I mean, if Albania did it, how come it was possible? Huh? And does it really boil down just to political will? Is this the key ingredient? Is this it?
Well, that's crucial, political will, because if you do not have genuine political will to do reforms and ensure the entrenchment of the rule of law, we are not in business. So we are trying to trigger political will. Also, our member states are very active, even with their bilateral relations in the region and beyond, to make pressure. We are trying also to serve as a bit of a watchdog. You may know what happened in Ukraine over the summer when a bill which was due to be passed in parliament with strong pressure from the EU then was repealed. So we are there to monitor, to keep pressure, etc. And political will is important. But in the case of what happened in Albania, there are also other factors. First of all is societal pressure. I think Mr. Dumani mentioned it. There was a genuine thirst of from citizens for justice. I remember when we went out of the parliament in July, in a hot summer night of July 2016, after the unanimous vote, there were celebrations in the street. I thought the Albanian national team had won something, and then we asked the man in the street saying, what's happening? And he said, Vetingu. So the average man in the street was excited of vetting. There is also another dimension in Albania. Albania is the country amongst the Council of Europe average where the likelihood of ending up in court is the highest for citizens because of its past, because of all the cases related to property that almost every household has a case in court because of the expropriation during the regime, etc. So really, citizens are really customer of the justice system. So there was a lot of pressure from the citizens to have justice being served in the right way, to have change, to have professionalism, integrity, and so on and so forth. So I think this other factor was also very important. And in between, of course, a very active civil society, which we had tried to embed in our dialogue as well. When we were doing the high-level dialogue, we also had a platform to create synergies, to enable the civil society to make to echo the pressure also from the public and expand it, etc. So there was a lot of virtuous dynamics, which with the political will of the government to change, and also of the opposition, because opposition played ball in July 2016. I think a combination of factor was decisive. Lucky combination, probably, I don't know, but I like to think also that the pull of Brussels, which we criticize a lot sometimes, and maybe doesn't work so well in other countries, has not worked so well. But in this case, it was also decisive. Also because, as I said, we didn't have negotiations on the table yet. This was done for the candidate status. And as I said, openly, I shared this anecdote. A couple of times in meetings, we heard from the government, are you really sure we have to do this now? Because we are not negotiating yet. And we said, sorry, strengthened approach to rule of law European Commission. This is now in our book. Tough luck.
You raised the bar. But the reason one of the reasons I'm asking you this is also to see whether, in your opinion, SPAK can be exported also to other candidates. Do you think that, because other candidates also have a public that is thirsty for justice and is thirsty for the rule of law? I mean, we see what's been happening in Serbia for some time now. Other countries also have. I mean, if you read the reports diagonally, all of the countries aspiring for membership have rule of law issues and struggle with the democratic conditionality. So, is SPAK one of the answers that can be replicated to other countries, would you say?
I think clearly yes, in the sense that in general, and also, by the way, SPAK is also building on the experience of a previous enlargement country, Croatia,
right?
Because also the name and the acronym is funnily enough, very close. So USKOK, SPAK, it's a continuation of the same history. So yes, it is very important to pass the message that specialized structures, not only to adjudicate, but to investigate. So I'm thinking of MBI, investigate, prosecute, and adjudicate cases, are very important. Obviously, as Italian, I'm very familiar with the Italian system, where the anti-mafia prosecution and all the structures, investigative structure, underpinning the work of anti-mafia prosecutor. This has been key in the fight against organized crime, in the fight, as we call it in Italy, against the anti-state, because for us, mafia is defined as l'antistato. And in many other countries, also in enlargement countries, there are already some structures, some specialized structures, with a certain degree of independence. So the issue for me here is not only of doing institution building, but also of preserving and empowering structure. Mr. Dumani was speaking about capacity, building trust, refining also operational procedures, developing the capacity of investigator to use and apply special investigative measures, and so on and so forth. So we need a little bit of consolidation work, because also in other countries there are specialized prosecution. They're already there, but the empowerment perhaps is missing. Second, the attempts at undue pressure perhaps have also been higher. SPAK has also got its share of undue pressure, as Mr. Dumani mentioned, on different sides, but also we see that in other countries some limits have been completely overcome. So yes, it's important, it's crucial, but sometimes we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because this structure already exists. It's about enabling them to function.
Right. I want to give you the chance in the audience to make a comment or raise a question if you have any. We have time for 1 or 2 questions. There are any questions? No? All right, then I'll come back to you with some final questions. Perhaps, I mean, I'll start to you just to finish with Mr. Dumani. one follow-up question for me that I'm curious about is, I mean, we know that the Commission is putting a high premium on sustainability of reforms. And do you think that Albania and SPAK in particular has gotten to the point where progress is irreversible at this point? And if not, I don't know, maybe you will say yes, but if not, what needs to happen for the country to get to that place?
There is a lot of, thank you for this question, it's very interesting. There is a lot of philosophical talks around, I'm reading a lot of paper, what is irreversibility of reform? Are reform truly reversible? So let me open a small parenthesis if I have one minute for that. Entrenchment of the rule of law is precondition for democratic resilience. So we need to work on two tracks and push countries to work on two tracks. One, to consolidate the functioning of democratic institutions, which, by the way, we introduced with in more visible terms in the 2020 enlargement revised methodology. It's not that we didn't work on democracy before, but we thought of giving more prominence to this. And second, working on rule of law across the board, not only on specialized structures, is key to really obtain, and particularly judicial independence, this particular aspect is quite crucial, is key to really guarantee in the long-term run this chimera, this dream of irreversibility. Because, of course, government coalition can change, etc. There are new vision, reforms, true. But if we see a sufficient degree of independence, if institutions start to have a life on their own, including by building international network partnerships and building results for which citizens, accountable ultimately, see the value of the work of this institution, then we are on the right track of irreversibility. Then a new government, a change of color in the government will not so easily affect the system. Revolutions will be much more difficult, negative revolutions. And also, if I may, to just say another words on another reform that Albania did, which we monitor from the European Commission, we supported also with our partners in the OECD. Albania did civil service reform and public administration reform, PFM, all the work on public financial management. This is normally seen outside the rule of law, but this is also part of it, because it's also about creating credible institutions, as I said, that have their own life and they deliver. Civil service reform, this was crucial to have a civil. The reason why Albania has been so fast in catching up with other countries is because, yes, there is political leadership who's pro-European and pro-enlargement. The people push, yes, but also in between the political leadership and the people, there are ministries, authorities with civil servants who every day work and serve. This, which is, I think, a bit of a niche thing if you think civil service reform, why is this important? But this has been crucial to change the country. So for me, I think it's very crucial to say that all these elements together that enable institutions to have consolidated function and have the life on their own are crucial to guarantee checks and balances, to guarantee institutional stability, ultimately to guarantee to democracy to function, and also with the rule of law being entrenched to democracy to be resilient. And we also seen sometimes in our member states in recent past that when accountability line were approximative and independence was not so strong and certain governments had different views on the rule of law, reforms were done to undermine the stability of judicial institution or constitutional court, Supreme Court, etc., etc. So it's a very complex thing that we need to have truly stable democratic institution and irreversibility of change.
I ask this because we also heard with this enlargement package the concept of safeguards. And I wonder whether you are considering safeguard mechanisms even in successful cases such as Albania, and whether such safeguards potentially should be extended to all member states, not just the new member countries, potentially new countries, given that you yourself mentioned that internally we face issues at times as well.
Start from the second question. There is an interesting story here. Since 4 or 5 years now, we have reports on the state of the rule of law within the Union, right? 10 years ago, the first time the Commission tried to be more assertive on anti-corruption was told off. You may remember that in 2014, we published a report on anti-corruption, level of fight against corruption in Europe, and member states made a revolution saying, why is the Commission looking at this? It was only adopted one time and it was discontinued. What happened is that we did a lot of lessons learned from the enlargement. In the mid-2010, we started to really focus on the rule of law, this narrative I was talking, rule of law first. Before the fundamentals in 2013, it was rule of law first. And we started also to somehow build, as I said, a new narrative around this, which helped us to make the case that we cannot just look at these things on enlargement countries, because then we have the crisis in Poland with the Constitutional Court and in Hungary. And so we said, listen, this is something that has to go. And back then, I think it was Viviane Reding, very courageous commissioner, who said, we need to look at rule of law within the Union, because this is a founding principle. This is the basic rule of the game for to preserve our integrity. And she said the Commission is not only the guardian of the treaty, should become the watchdog of the rule of law. This is why we have to go 2.0. And we started to do a report on member states. Yeah. And the methodology of the enlargement package has influenced the way we report on member states. So the answer to the second point you made is actually yes. We need to look also at and we started to look also at EU member states, because, and by the way, after the first 2 editions of the rule of law reports, also in the rule of law reports on member states, we have now recommendations, including
non-binding.
Still, but also for enlargement countries, they are non-binding. We have a bigger carrot of accession, but on the rule of law report, we start to make a recommendation on anti-corruption performances and track record. This was unthinkable 10 years ago. Quick answer to your first point, yes, we went public. The communication is clear. We hint at the fact that we are working at the new safeguards, the new generation of accession treaty, and this is just physiological, because we need to adapt the accession treaty to the current times and the current challenges, including on rule of law and democracy. We just launched a democracy shield. Yeah. So we can't supersede looking at these things with the more intensity. So we are working on that. We are working on 2 main directions. One, we are assessing previous safeguards from the last treaty and also the experience that was there for Romania and Bulgaria with the CVM. So how to reinforce already safeguards that have already been used in the past, but we're also looking at new safeguards. So there is discussion ongoing. Of course, it's still very too early for me to elaborate on this, since we just started working also with our legal services, not only DG ENEST. And we are determined to have these safeguards for every future member that will sign accession treaties, even those who perform well and deserve to get in, still monitoring and having a Damocles sword, which it's positive pressure for institutions to deliver, for institutions to be able to consolidate their functions, also beyond accession, is crucial. It's crucial, otherwise we risk that.
No, I mean, but it's also interesting because I recall vividly discussions at the time when Croatia was about to come in, and there was a definite answer that there would be nothing comparable to CVM or no similar mechanisms introduced for Croatia. So I was, it's very interesting, this change of rhetoric, and of course, especially when you discuss successful cases as Albania. But Mr. Dumani, we have a few minutes left of our time together, and What I wanted maybe to ask you for the end is one very narrow and specific question and something a little bit larger. The first one is about this cooperation that you mentioned, that it's part of the ingredients that ensure the success story. And you talked a lot about the partnerships and the work that had to be done to build trust with international actors in Europe and globally. But I wonder if you can spend a few more words on the cooperation and the trust that you found or you had to build with partners in the region. That's one thing. And then for the very end, what is the message that you want, or the takeaway that you want our Brussels audience here today to leave with from your visit to the EPC and in this conference?
Bashkëpunimit me vendet e rajonit, ne si SPAK kemi një bashkëpunim shumë të mirë me Kosovën, me Maqedoninë e Veriut, me Malin e Zi dhe së fundmi edhe me Serbinë. Ky bashkëpunim është ndërtuar ndër vite dhe është I përditshëm. Në kuadër edhe me vendet e rajonit, ne kemi patur skuadrat përbashkëta hetimore, për shembull mund përmend Kosovën, mund përmend Maqedoninë e Veriut. Me këto dy shtete kemi patur edhe skuadrat përbashkëta hetimore, hetime paralele, dhe pastaj shkëmbim informacioni spontan në mënyrë të përhershme. Me Malin e Zi kemi një bashkëpunim të shkëlqyer. Për vetë faktin se edhe në hetimet tona ne kemi vënë re se grupe kriminale shqiptare e përdorin gjithashtu Malin e Zi për qëllimet e tyre kriminale. Kemi patur raste kur sasi kokaine vinin nga vendet e Amerikës Latine, fillimisht shkarkoheshin në portin e barit dhe pastaj e Tivarit ose të barit në Malë të Zi dhe pastaj transportoheshin në drejtim të Shqipërisë. Dhe kemi patur bashkëpunim konkret me autoritetet e Malit të Zi. Kemi përdorur edhe metoda speciale siç është dorëzimi I kontrolluar me qëllim sekwestrimin e narkotikëve në Shqipëri, e kokainës në Shqipëri. Do ta veçoja faktikisht Malin e Zi sepse edhe shkëmbimi I informacioneve është pak më frekuent me Malin e Zi dhe vërtet bashkëpunimi me prokurinën e posaçme të Malit të Zi është një nivel shumë të mirë. Kemi patur pak vështirësi me Serbinë, por fal edhe ndërmjetësimit të Eurojust, tashmë ne kemi një bashkëpunim të vendosur, po punojmë bashkarisht, pasi edhe në hetimet tona kemi vënë re rastet e bashkëpunimit të krimit organizuar shqiptar me krimin e organizuar serb. Mesazhi që dua të përcjell është ky që ka lidhje dhe me pyetjet që bëhet për zotin Venneri që sa I takon vijshmërisë së institucioneve. Patjetër që institucionet fillimisht për të patur një vijimsi kërkojnë një mbrojtje të mirë ligjore dhe kushtetuese. Aktualisht SPAK e ka të garantuar, pasi kushtetuta dhe kornisa ligjore garanton këtë pavarësi. Por ne kemi patur të nevojshme në punën tonë mbështetjen edhe të Bashkimit Evropian edhe të Shteteve të Bashkuara të Amerikës. Mbështetja ka qenë në mënyra të ndryshme, në forma të ndryshme, ka qenë përmes projekteve, përmes programeve të ndryshme, gjithashtu ka qenë edhe nga pikpamja teknike, duke na ndihmuar me mjete dhe pajisje, por forma më e rëndësishme e ndihmës ndaj institucione, sidomos institucione të reja siç është SPAK, ishte ka qenë, si thuash, marrja në mbrojtje e institucionit, deklaratat publike të bëra nga përfaqësues të Bashkimit Evropian, qoftë këtu në Bruksel, por edhe delegacioni I Bashkimit Evropian në Shqipëri. Ka qenë një zë shumë I fuqishëm Bashkimi Evropian në mbrojtje të SPAK nga presionet e ndryshme politike apo dhe mediatike. Dhe ky është dhe mesazhi që dua të përcjell, që të vazhdojnë ta mbështesin SPAK dhe institucionet e tjera homologe të SPAK në rajon, pasi unë jam i sigurt që nëse nuk do të kishim edhe mbështetjen e Bashkimit Evropian në ato forma që unë përmenda, por edhe të Shtetet Bashkuara, SPAK do ishte vështirë të ishte në këtë stad që është sot. Faleminderit.
Well, with regards to the first question about cooperation in the region, I have to say that SPAK has a very good cooperation in the region as well. So we have very good cooperation with Kosovo, with North Macedonia, with Montenegro, and recently with Serbia. This is cooperation that is established in years. This is a fruit of the continuous work that we are doing with our colleagues in the context of various cases and various exchanges that we've got. We have joint investigative teams with 2 of the countries in the region. In particular, we've got those JITs with Kosovo and North Macedonia. And we also use parallel exchange of information on an ad hoc basis, and we communicate with the colleagues in the region as the case may be. I would like to highlight in particular the excellent cooperation we've got with colleagues from Montenegro, with the Special Prosecution Office of Montenegro. What we've seen is that there is a good cooperation of Albanian criminal gangs with the Montenegrin criminal gangs, and oftentimes they cooperate receiving drugs from Latin America, which are first and foremost landed in Bar, in one of the ports of Montenegro, and then are transported towards Albania. Therefore, we need to cooperate with our colleagues, and like I said, the cooperation with the Montenegrin colleagues has been excellent. We've used different special investigative instruments, and one of them is consigned deliveries of the drugs, and we are happy with the progress of our joint work up until now. When it comes to Serbia, the cooperation has been a little bit more difficult, but thanks to Eurojust, we are now, I believe, in the right track, and cooperation is becoming more sustainable. Also, I have to say that there is a lot going on in terms of cooperation of the criminal gangs from Albania and Serbia. Therefore, the way forward is to strengthen cooperation and to work at high intensity. Now, when it comes to the message or the takeaway, and that is something that I also want to relate to the question that you asked to my colleague, I think that it's important to continue the good work that is done up until now. And in order for the irreversibility of the reform or of the work that SPAK has done up until now, it's important for the institution to be independent. And we know that as things are right now, the Constitution and the laws protect us, they provide for independence, but in and of itself, that's not enough. It's important for us to get support from the European Union, from the United States, a support that we have received thus far in the shape of projects or programs, but also technical assistance and other types of assistance. I think that it's important to provide protection, and also it's important to continue receiving public statements from the European Union delegation in Albania, but also from Brussels, because to us that's an encouragement to keep on the good work that we've done so far, and it also gives a signal to both politicians or other factors that are trying to probably exercise some influence on us, but also a motivator for us to go ahead. So once again, without the support of the European Union and without the support of the United States of America, we would have not been where we are today. And the message, my ultimate message, would be for the European Union to keep supporting us.
Right, thank you very much. I hope that message was heard loud and clear. Would you allow me to share the piece of information? No. There's news coming, positive news, but how I would like to end, and picking up on the final message of Mr. Dumani, is that indeed permanence is important now for the success that we managed to achieve. And I think that ensuring permanence in the efforts and in the delivery of SPAK is not good news only for Albania and for the citizens, but also for the enlargement policy and a process. Whose credibility obviously is key. Thank you very much, Mr. Dumani and Mr. Venneri, and thank you for participating. Please join me in thanking our panelists, and hope to see you again at further conversations, because, of course, if we talk about permanence, this is a discussion that has to be ongoing. Thank you.